We are entering a new era of empires, unlike any other the world has ever seen. Unbound potential and possibilities abound at this moment, and we may be witnessing the birth of a new kind of empire in a completely new economic, technological, and political frontier. What would you do if your population was fast increasing and you ran out of land to accommodate them? What would you do too if you wanted your country to prosper beyond its wildest dreams? Finally, what would you do if you wanted your country to be known for being the most innovative and culturally superior in the world? These were the kinds of concerns that European nations in the 15th century were grappling with. And the era of discovery has a single answer to all of these issues. Welcome to Financial Market TV. If you're new to the channel and enjoy content like this, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Also, please don't hesitate to share your comments down below and give this video a like. Let's get started. You see, the Portuguese began sending ships along the African coast into the Atlantic in the early 15th century for a variety of reasons, ranging from military to religious and commercial. They did discover, however, that wheat and sugarcane were relatively easy to grow on these islands. So, these islands ended up making Portugal significantly wealthier while helping feed its citizens. While also settling in parts of India, southern Asia, and Brazil, the addition of these lands to the Portuguese Empire ended up giving Portugal a dramatic increase in trade and resources, making the country go through an economic boom. And during this time, other European nations began to notice the success of the Portuguese Empire. So they began to explore as well, hoping to increase their wealth and military prowess while also extending their culture. As a result, Spain had an economic boom, while the British were not far off behind in the 17th century. Monkey see, monkey do, I guess. As a result, the British Empire grew to become the world's largest empire in history. It ruled over nearly a quarter of the world's people and controlled around a quarter of the territory on the planet. You see, all of these empires that were created in the Portuguese, the Spanish, and the British were the only ones who made it possible by daring exploration of an unknown frontier, and they eventually made massive advancements in technology, which allowed for faster travel and better extraction of resources. Bringing us to the present. As you can see, many countries today are asking themselves the same questions as Europeans did in the 14th century. However, there is a slight issue now. How can a country become enormously affluent, be considered as a world superior nation, and extend the land area in which its people dwell when there is no land to expand into in modern times? Virtually all land on Earth is claimed by some country or nation, except for a few spots in the Arctic, Antarctica, Berta Wheel between Egypt and Sudan, and Gornja Saiga, a plot of land between Croatia and Serbia. Today, a country cannot just go on an expedition and attempt to conquer the unoccupied planet if it desires additional resources, territory, or better trade routes. As a result, many governments are employing a variety of strategies to expand their nation's controllable land, trade, and resources. There are some that are looking into a different frontier, a frontier that is located right above your head: space. In the 1950s, the public viewed space as a frontier that really didn't have much of a purpose outside of military and defense. In fact, NASA's funding was almost directly correlated with the public's perception of the need to go into space. So that's why in the 1950s and 60s, the public viewed space investment as another form of defense investment from the Soviets. But once the public thought that NASA won the space race in the late 1960s, they thought that there wasn't a utility for space investment anymore, which is why NASA's budget was cut by 80% from 1966 to 1975. However, what the general people did not realize at the time was that space will soon become a major role in the global arena. At any given time in 1975, there were just a few dozen satellites orbiting the planet, and the majority of them were unsophisticated, capable of performing only a few fundamental operations that had little bearing on consumer life on Earth. Meanwhile, today the Earth has over 5,000 satellites orbiting at any one point in time, and these survey have a wide range of purposes like the GPS. Yeah, some of them, including GPS and satellite images, play a significant role in residents' daily lives around the world today. Currently, the space industry generates approximately $400 billion in revenue per year, and is indirectly responsible for, well, over $1 trillion in trade honors. And that number is growing fast. Companies like Boeing and other aerospace giants are generating about 5 to 20% of the revenue from space related activities, and that percentage is growing every year. However, anything in space is currently expensive, such as the normal payload that was sent into orbit during the Apollo missions, which, by the way, now costs around $80 million. And today, some of those payloads are being purchased in bulk by different corporations for the same watch. So, if one SpaceX rocket can carry 64,000 kilograms of payload into space, that payload might be carrying 100 different objects from 100 different companies at the same time. So essentially, space is now becoming much more of an economical venture than it used to be just a few decades ago. You see, with the advancements of tech and streamlining the processes in getting equipment and such things to space, it makes it significantly cheaper to partake in such endeavors. And that's where we could be right now. Most countries and many medium to big corporations are on the verge of making space travel economically viable. That is why in the last decade we have witnessed such a tremendous influx of companies in the space sector, even from small and very impoverished countries. Luxembourg, Turkmenistan, Bolivia, Sri Lanka, and Poland have all initiated space projects and sent satellites into orbit in the last decade. Can you believe it? As you can see, space exploration is no longer limited to the world's wealthiest nations. But this raises the questions of where the future return on space investment might come from. By sending hundreds of satellites into orbit, SpaceX and Amazon are creating their own internet service. Several hundred of these satellites have already been launched, and a beta test for this new internet will take place over the next 6 to 12 months. Virgin Galactic has focused heavily upon the space tourism and travel industry. Their unique hybrid rocket plane design has made it possible to take off from a runway, then enter suborbital space and safely land on another runway. And even though this might seem like it's just for tourism, it might actually be a replacement for the airplane in the future, because a typical plane will travel around 500 miles per hour during its flight, but the Virgin Galactic Unity spaceship flies through space at speeds of up to 2,500 miles per hour. A voyage from New York to Hong Kong that would normally take up to 16 hours may now be accomplished in 4 to 5. That's crazy. But arguably, the most important part of the future of space economy might come from colonization. Yep, I bet you didn't expect that one. Would people on Mars have property rights to the land they settle on if a firm like SpaceX, for example, were to deploy humans to Mars by 2024? Or maybe create a Mars settlement by 2040? Every spacefaring country in the globe has agreed that there is no such thing as ownership of any part of a celestial body outside of Earth, according to the present space treaty. But what happens to the colony after that? What laws or regulations do they adhere to? Is it true that they make their own? Within the next few decades, this will raise a slew of questions. In other words, if 10 people become the first inhabitants of Mars in 2040, there will be no one to inform them that this is not their home. So theoretically, SpaceX could call them Elon Musk land, and there wouldn't be a single governing body on the planet that could kick them off Mars or punish them. Now, if that were to happen, it would be very likely that the company on Earth would face some sort of repercussions, but the Mars claim of land and property rights might still hold to be true. And if that were to happen in the future, you may hypothetically be able to dominate the rules and resources of that portion of the universe, if you could settle on Mars first. Surprisingly, most of the resources beneath the Martian surface are remarkably similar to that we have on Earth. According to most measurements, that is. That is to say, populating Mars and ruling space could be humanity's next economic and geopolitical frontier. Approximately 600 years ago, the Europeans went through something similar. And while some of you may believe that the future is far away, I am prepared to gamble that it is far closer than we realize. So, what do you think of the space industry? And what are your thoughts on the land claims and laws on Mars? Thanks for watching the whole video. Again, if you're new and like this type of content, subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to leave a comment down below and hit that like button. Also, click on the notification bell to get updated on our weekly uploads. See you in the next video.